Okay. But I can point to a lot of examples where walls don't stop people from going places, so.
And there's always exceptions. Like I said, there's always going to be somebody that hops the fence, but the majority of people will not hop a fence.
Couldn't you make the same type of argument to fund like a million other types of government related programs?
You probably could, but I would rather have the wall. All those other
Yeah, but
government
you
programs too are
want
speculative.
no, no. Not everything is just totally speculative. Like there are studies and research that you could do to try to justify something. Like let's say that I wanted to give, I want to solve homelessness, so I'm going to give every homeless person in the United States $1 million, right? And then somebody argues against you. Well, hold on, that's probably a waste of money. I go, well, listen, dude. When people get money, they buy homes, and I know that's true. And money leads to having homes, so I'm just going to give every homeless person $1 million. And I go, well, I think that's a bad idea. I go, okay, well, you're just speculating. I'm going to do it anyway, right? You wouldn't accept that argument there, would you?
No, that's all speculation.
But why wouldn't you accept it there, but you would accept it for the wall?
Because I'm willing to take a chance, like we've said, that all
Why?
these other things aren't working.
But why aren't you willing to take a chance on giving every homeless person $100,000 or whatever?
I didn't say I wasn't.
Okay, so then if somebody were to posit a government program where we were to give every single homeless person $100,000, you think that would be like an okay program to move forward and try?
I personally don't know because I don't believe that people can respect things when they don't earn them. So therefore, I believe that things have to be earned.
Okay, so you have a reason then why you wouldn't support that, but you don't accept any reasons for not supporting the wall? Like if I say that people will come here through other means anyway, that's not an acceptable reason for you to be against the wall?
Um, I've already said that yes, people will come across, but I still believe that it's going to stop a majority of the people.
Okay.
Just like with the $100,000. Sure, I would imagine if you went to Vancouver and found 1,000 homeless people and all gave them $100,000, some of those people would turn their lives around. They would do great. But I think that the majority of the people would do poorly because they wouldn't understand how to handle it and they wouldn't have a sense of really respecting it because they didn't earn it.
Okay, and if I said that the wall might stop some people, sure, but the majority of people will still continue to cross illegally through other means, therefore it's probably a giant waste of money, and we should look to spend it elsewhere, you wouldn't accept that as an answer?
I would say, yeah, it's speculative.
Okay. I guess I don't agree with investing a ton of money into something that's just 100% built on speculation without any research or like deeper thought put into it.
Yeah, and I see where you're coming from with that. But like I said, the original thing is your conversation with Jim is you denied that walls stop people from going to places. You should go back and listen to it. You're basically saying to him they get through no matter what.
Well, firstly, we're not talking to Jim right now. I'm talking to you. Secondly,
No, I
yeah, in a
know.
lot of cases, walls don't or do fail to stop people from getting through. The fact that you would bring up the wall of China is like very strange, considering the Mongols invaded and killed them after they had that wall up and maintained. That seems like one of the worst arguments that you could possibly put forth. Maybe they should have spent more money on making forging armor or weapons or something. That seems like one of the worst examples that you could put forth as an example of a successful wall. Um, Yeah, I don't know. It's just like you're talking about people that are already doing something illegal. The idea of like when you talk about a wall in a neighborhood to keep your neighbors out or whatever, or walls around your houses, like these are against law-abiding citizens. Like, you don't put up walls to keep out, criminals, right? You put locks on your doors, or you get a security system or something more than that, right? Those walls don't exist just to keep out, random people passing by.
You put up walls around a prison.
Okay, but you also have security guards and stuff there, and barbed wire
So
fences and security. So you don't just have a wall and expect that to work because those people will try to get out using other means, right? You have it,
yeah,
but
well, have they not said that there would be? And you guys patrol the border to Mexico right now with people, don't you? You
yeah,
pay
we
for
do.
all that.
Sure, yeah, I
So
do.
why not keep those people and have them patrol the wall?
Well, because the wall is a massive investment of 15 plus billion dollars that's also going to have to be maintained over a long period of time and hurts relations with a country to the south of us that we should be trying to build relations with. So, I mean, I think those are good arguments to be in favor of putting the money into other places. But I don't. It seems like we're not going to agree on this probably.
Well, no, because a large portion of it is speculative, and my point is that building walls keeps people from traveling through areas that you don't want them to go.
Okay, that
That's what
argument.
they do.
Okay, and giving people money means that they can afford houses. I can make the same argument, but you wouldn't be in favor of giving homeless people a bunch of money because it's not quite that simple, right? You're being very reductive and saying that walls keep people from going places. Like, I can link you video after video of people going into concerts by jumping fences or by climbing over walls, or the fact that the Great Wall of China, the large wall that you cited, failed to keep the Mongols out. Like, I mean, yeah, walls do work sometimes, but other times they don't. Maybe there are better places to put our money.
Yeah, but again, the majority are stopped. If the majority weren't stopped by the walls, they would stop having them.
Yeah, but then
We would stop putting fences in between our houses. We would stop putting fences around prisons. We would stop, you know, we
the
would stop
majority of
all
people-
security
majority of people.
in. There's always criminals. There's always people breaking the rules. But you have the rules and you do things to stop the majority.
Sure, but the majority of people in our country right now that are here illegally aren't here because they walked over a place that the wall would block. Like,
I don't have numbers on that to really argue that. Again, it's speculative. So yeah, we're not going to agree. But my point is that walls stop people from traveling to areas. That's why we have them. That's why we do this. It's a fact.
so
And
then why
you're
don't we
right.
just like drop walls between like Syria? Why don't we just go wall in ISIS then, and then they can't do anything to kill anybody? We just build a big wall around them.
I don't know why those countries don't build walls around them.
Maybe because it's not feasible to do so.
You know, let's look at another wall. What about the wall between East and West Germany?
Didn't that one get torn down as well? Weren't there still people
Yeah.
that illegally moved between that wall? Do you think that we have the, first of all, that's a much smaller area of land. Secondly, do you really think we're going to have the money to, like, that was a full-on fucking, like, wartime patrol memes and everything. Like, do you think we have the money to staff and fund a wall that extremely? Like,
I don't know exactly what the budget is for how much you guys are spending right now on border security, as well as teams that catch illegal immigrants and deport them, and what it costs to put these people through your court system, all the police, all the other things that are involved. I don't have the numbers on that. But yeah, the wall in Germany stood for years and years, quite like decades. And there was, you know, a real separation. Like I said, you guys patrol your wall, your border right now. You would just be paying the same people to patrol the wall. You guys have more than enough money. If you took out this money out of your military budget, you would be able to afford 100 walls. What's your military budget? 300 billion?
600, I think, annually.
600 billion.
So should we
And you're
take money
telling
out
me-
of the military budget to build maybe a giant roof over the country too, to keep people from getting here illegally by plane? Or maybe a big net?
You know that that's ridiculous.
Well, but your entire argument is saying that, like, everything is speculative. I don't have any numbers for anything, but I really do think the wall is going to work. And then you tell me that a big roof would be ridiculous. I mean, your whole argument is rooted in pure emotion right now. That you think
No, it's not. My whole argument is that walls stop people from traveling to areas that you don't want them to go.
But that's not always true. And we both know that's not always true.
It is always true.
It's not always true. People can get
for the
over a wall.
majority.
We don't.
You're right. A small group of people will always bypass every system, everything, everywhere. But that doesn't mean that you just stop all efforts.
It's not about stopping all efforts. It's about spending your money where it's appropriate. I'm never saying you stop all efforts. If you were a store, you could actually guarantee that nobody would ever shoplift ever. It's possible to do that. As soon as you go into the store, every single person gets their own security guard assigned to them, and they follow you throughout the store and then you check out and you leave. If you would enact a policy like that, you would prevent all shoplifting, 100%. Right?
I doubt that. I doubt it.
How would somebody shoplift with a guard watching them at all times?
People are pretty smart. People find lots of ways to get around stuff.
Okay, you would argue that you would prevent the large majority of shoplifting, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We do right now.
But no, we don't do that. And why don't we do
You-
that? Because it's not feasible. There's not enough money to hire that many security guards to watch every single person individually and follow them around the store. That's a huge waste of money. The money
So
that
you think that the majority of people that go into stores steal?
no?
The majority of the population steals. No? Why? Because there's deterrence, right?
There are deterrents
So-
now at our border, though.
Right.
So there are already deterrents. You're arguing for having the more extreme, that we need to continue to put even more and more and more and more deterrents there.
Because you guys have a severe problem with illegal immigrants in your country.
Yeah, a problem that's been slowly decreasing over the past few decades. That over the past decade, it's gotten to such a point that we have less Mexicans in our country today than there were a while ago. It's not like the majority of Mexicans are illegally immigrating, right? Mexico has a population of over 100 million. I think 130 million people. It's not like all of them are illegally immigrating here, right?
No, not every one of them, no. But you still have a severe problem with illegal immigration.
I mean, I don't disagree, but you haven't demonstrated in a single way how a wall will help that, other than saying, well, sometimes walls do stop some people.
It's not sometimes. They always do.
They don't always do, because we both
They
agree.
always stop a majority.
Okay, so sometimes they stop people.
They always stop the majority. And there's always a few people that get around everything. But the majority of people that want to cross there will find the correct way to go through. If there's a wall blocking them, they will go to find the proper route,
So
thus leading them into
how do you think you get
legal
to America?
immigration.
How do you think you get to America legally? How long do you think it takes a Mexican to legally immigrate to the United States?
probably years.
Over 10 on average.
Yeah.
So
that
and that's for that sometimes that's even for high skilled labor. For people who already have jobs here.
well, that's the way it goes.
Sure. So legally, they're probably not coming here. So you have people that are willing to risk rape, murder, and thievery of not only themselves, but their entire families, and they're willing to leave behind everything they have or sell off all their property to afford these trips, right? These people that are already willing to go to these great lengths, you think that if you put a wall in some areas, that all of a sudden those people are going to completely stop trying to come over. People who've already shown a great propensity for doing whatever they can to get here. You think that a wall in some areas or across the border would all of a sudden make them say, well, I guess that's it, let's go back?
They would stop the majority, yes.
But you have no evidence of that other than your feelings and emotions. You have no evidence that you haven't seen a study done on how much these people are trying to get over or how much money people spend. This is a multi-$100 billion annual industry, illegal immigration, on all the other ways that people get here by car, by boat, by overstaying visas, by tunnels, right? You just think that it'll stop most people because of a hunch.
Well, because walls stop a majority of the people from traveling. That's what walls do. This is why we build them. This is what walls are for. They stop people from traveling all willy-nilly, and it forces them to travel in the way that we want them to travel.
Sure.
That's why we make fences. That's why we make walls. This is what we do it for. All kinds of facets of our society.
Sure. Most of those walls, though, are built for law-abiding citizens, for people that don't go there because they know they're not supposed to, right? How would this apply if you were to build imagine if you had a country full of criminals who are all willing to break laws, right? Walls probably aren't stopping you at that point. You need more than that, right? Or you would need something completely different. You actually need security guards, security cameras. Like, just walls aren't going to do anything there.
But again, you patrol your border already. Those people would stay employed patrolling the wall.
Sure.
Just like a prison.
And I don't disagree with that.
Those are not law-abiding citizens we put in somewhere, and we put walls around them. If walls didn't stop people from traveling, we wouldn't put them around prisons.
Sure, but those
Why
walls,
not just have the guards? Why not just have the guards at a prison then?
Because it's probably not feasible to watch it 24/7, but you also don't have cars and planes and tunnels inside of prisons already, like you do with Mexico, right? And you're also not facilitating massive travel in and out of a prison, right? You don't have vehicles driving through constantly. You don't have planes taking off and landing inside prisons. You don't have cars traveling through it recreationally, right?
No, but they do have people that go in and out, visitors, all kinds of things.
It's a very
Contraband
small...
gets in prison.
Sure.
People do sneak out. People do break out.
Okay, so what you just said, even though there is an incredibly limited amount of travel in and out of a prison, and it's very heavily restricted, right? And there are armed security guards and cameras, even with all of that, there's still contraband in prison.
Yeah, I know. I told you that. It doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter, like you said, if you had a security guard with every person at every store, somebody is still going to steal. I guarantee they're going to figure out a way. There's always a way. And some small portion of the population will figure that out. I guarantee it. They always do with everything. But the point is to control the majority of people. The majority will not cross that wall.
All right. Okay, so you think that the wall will stop the majority of people. I don't think that, and I've never seen any evidence proven to the contrary. You admit as much that you don't really have any evidence, but you think the wall will stop them because walls stop people, right?
Yeah, that's what we build walls for, yes.
All right. What's the next thing you wanted to talk about?
Well, we could talk about the whole construction worker thing because I am a construction worker.
Sure.
And I actually take pride in what I do.
That's
and
cool. I've
I
never
believe
in my
that
life
was
said that nobody shouldn't take pride in what they do. But
no, but I do believe you said to Sargon that something. I could go back and listen for the exact quote of that. Nobody takes pride in being a construction worker. Nobody wants to be a construction worker. I think I said nobody wants to.
People generally look down on these types of jobs. I think it was, and nobody wants their kids to grow up to become these things. I think it was more or less what I said, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what it's like in Canada. I don't know what it's like in the United Kingdom. I probably should have qualified this a little bit more. I thought that this was kind of obvious, but I'm speaking from an American point of view. In the United States, a lot of the manual labor blue-collar jobs are really shitty jobs. So on several points. One, they usually do a lot of damage to your body. By the time you're in your 30s, oftentimes you'll already have developed chronic diseases that will be with you for the rest of your life. Two, they often are horrible in terms of pay. Or barely competitive with similar jobs in white-collar fields that don't involve you doing long-term damage to your body. Three, they often don't have great benefits, especially if you're like a contract worker. You're not getting like health care and dental insurance and everything. And then four, there is no like retirement or pension. Like if something goes out of business or if you get too old or injured to work, like you're pretty fucked at that point. These are the reasons why most people try to opt for cushier jobs rather than doing like the hardcore blue collar work in America that tends to pay really shitty and be really shitty. Does that not apply in Canada? Is that not true in Canada?
Not even close, no.
Okay. You guys get paid like decent amounts of money there for these kinds of jobs?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so then this is. Do you understand when
from what I understand in the U.S., it is very much similar. Maybe you have no idea of what these jobs are as part of that, but plumbers are probably making like. Yeah, I guess it's a little different for me to understand what the pay is there, but like a good plumber here is making close to $100,000 a year.
Let me qualify this a little bit more. When I talk about like blue collar jobs, I'm not talking about, and I should have qualified this more because I see how you can read into this. I'm not talking about plumbers. I'm not talking about electricians. I'm not talking about architects. These are all skilled labor positions, right? I'm talking about like frontline, no education, very low skill, no 2-year degrees, no trade school, like the very front level, very basic things like retail isn't considered blue collar, but stuff similar to like retail, except like working on like a construction site as like a contract person, not a mining foreman, not an architect designing sites, like none of like.
No, I'm not talking about architects or anything like that.
Plumber that's a skilled trade. Being a plumber is a skilled trade. Same thing
in construction. That's a construction worker.
Okay. But it's not really what I was talking about when I was talking about shitty blue collar jobs. I'm not talking about somebody being an electrician or a plumber or an architect, right? These are high skilled, high paying, like these are decent jobs. Architect
is not in the trades. That's not a construction worker.
Sure, not an architect, but like a carpenter is what I meant to say. I'm sorry, not an architect, but like a carpenter. I'm talking about literally like bricklayers, like people that are moving around shit on job sites, or literally involved in like the building process and whatnot, that are getting like really shitty pay, like frontline, low level, low skill jobs are essentially what I'm talking about.
But that's where you enter, right? When I first started framing houses, I didn't know anything about it. I just went there and they were like, well, you know, what can you do? I said, well, I don't know that much, but I'm willing to learn. And they said, sure, we'll pay you, you know, this much. And I enter in at that level. You start building houses. You learn as time goes on. And in 4 or 5 years, you're making $60,000 to $70,000 a year
As
as a framer.
as a framer in Canada.
Yeah. It's easy to make more than that being a good framer in Canada, and you literally have no education other than you go to the job site and the guy gives you a hammer and says, well, here you go. And you learn from there.
So, for what I'm looking at, the average salary of a framer in Canada is $42,000, which in USD is about $30,000. This is a far cry from like the 60 plus thousand that you seem to be citing. Are you sure that you're not maybe overestimating?
Yes. I've framed houses.
Okay, do you think that your experience framing is going to be representative of every single person that gets into that job?
Obviously not. Some people are more successful than me. Some people are less successful than me.
Okay, so do you think that your experience can be projected onto every other person that gets into that?
No, you can't do that. Not everybody's different.
So then where do you get the idea that every framer in a few years can be earning $60,000+?
I'm saying that a large group of the people can easily pull themselves up to that level.
When you say large group, can you quantify that number for me? Like, are you saying like over half?
Yeah.
Okay, then why is the average salary for framers in Canada only $42,000?
It could be that there's lots of people that only frame half the year because the other half of the year they can't work outside. So they go to doing another trade throughout the year.
Gotcha. So then, why would you say $60,000? Why not just say like $30,000 or $40,000 only working part of the year? Like salary is expressed like in yearly terms.
Because where I live and my experience in the trade is that you can easily make more than that.
Okay, but we've already agreed that where you live and your personal experience can't be projected onto everybody else, right?
No, not everybody.
Okay, so if I see that the average annual income for framers is $42,000, it's annual income. How about this? Let's look at it from an entirely different point of view. Do you agree that people with a college degree tend to earn more than people without?
Probably yes.
Okay, in the United States, that's again, I can't speak for every country. I'd be willing to guess that in Canada, that's almost certainly true. In the United States, that's certainly true. That people with college degrees tend to earn better than people without college degrees, right? Would you agree that college degree related jobs in general are less damaging to your body over time than the heavier manual labor jobs?
No.
Okay, do you think that manual labor jobs don't do any damage to your body?
It depends on how you work, and it can, but I find that people that work in offices often lead very sedentary lives, and they are not necessarily any more healthy than people in the trades. Yeah, see, I'm seeing the average wage for plumbers in Canada between $51,000 and $88,000.
Sure, that's a far cry from the 100+ you cited me, but I don't consider a plumber to be a low-level, no-skill job. I think that a plumber is a trade, much like an electrician or a carpenter.
Yeah, and I guess that's where you were off in claiming that all of these things under construction because...
Well, I said,
like what we...
I guess when I think of like blue collar, I don't necessarily think of like plumbers and electricians and carpenters, but different people have different definitions for blue collar, I found out, so.
Well,
I think that most studies that I've seen, I mean, I could link you some, but I don't expect you to read everything now. Most studies that I've seen typically say that people are at a higher risk for heart disease and other types of similar physical ailments, whether it's arthritis or back-related injuries.
Shout outs to Super
If they're doing hard manual labor as opposed to working in like a desk job or like some kind of office-related thing or college degree-related thing. So typically, there's more bodily damage involved in doing hard manual labor.
And see, again, for framer in Canada, I'm seeing the average income between 31,000 and 64,000, which would 60. You're closing in on around $60,000 for a framer.
Yeah, the very, very top of that average, sure.
Yeah, and that's for the people actually working in the trades. I have no college education. Well, I have a diploma in jazz music.
Okay.
And I actually gave up an opportunity to pursue. I had somebody that wanted to fund me and spend their time trying to sell my music. And I opted to work in construction instead.
Okay.
Because I wanted a secure wage that I get every week. And I found that in framing, and I did home renos for a while, and then what I do now, which is heat and frost insulation, that there was almost the same level of creativity, and I get to look at a product at the end. I look at a finished product. I worked in office work for a while. I actually worked for T-Mobile for 3 years. And personally, I just can't handle corporate jargon and the absolute garbage that they kind of make you spout that nobody really believes. It's just marketing bull.
Sure. How would you argue there's more creativity in framing than in music?
I didn't say that there's more. There's an equal amount.
How would you say there's an equal amount?
When you're doing renos and framing and stuff,
That's
you
your
have a little bit of leeway in how you do things. In my job now, I have a lot of leeway, and a lot of it is finishing. So it's about making it look nice, and there's different ways to get there. So you kind of are left to your decision on how you want to get there.
Sure, but I don't think that's an equal amount. When you talk about music, you literally, if you're doing composition, you can make your whole piece on your own for free. Or, if you're in performance or soloing or whatever, especially for jazz, right? You get to solo a lot. You're kind of making your own stuff up for free or choosing which jobs to take for gigging or...
Yeah, but the thing is that when you come down to the reality of being a professional musician, there's a very small group of people that they get to do whatever they want, and people lap up everything that they do creatively.
Yeah, most people have to play gigs and stuff at weddings or bars or whatever to survive.
Yeah.
Sure, that's the trade-off of being an artist always. Yeah.
One of the gigs that I could have went to was a cruise ship, right?
Sure.
There's a lot of money being a musician on a cruise ship. You have absolutely zero creativity. They tell you what to play, when to play it.
Okay.
A lot of artists live on that. They're not kind of just doing whatever they want. They're offering a product to people, and a lot of the times it's not what they want to do. It's what they have to do to pay the bills.
Gotcha. How did you get through school? Is it really affordable in Canada? I don't remember.
Well, I took student loan from the government, so I ended up borrowing about $15,000. Took me through 2 years.
You got a degree in 2 years?
A diploma, sorry.
Oh. You got a diploma in 2 years? I don't know how... I think it works differently in Canada than...
Yeah, it's 2 years, so that gets you your basic for, jazz diploma.
Gotcha. What instrument did you play? I'm just curious.
I majored on guitar.
Okay.
But yeah,
do you see the difference between and I don't want to make anything personal, but do you see the difference between your life of getting to go to school, you got your diploma in music, you tried music for a while, you didn't like it, you went to work a different job, you didn't like it, and then you kind of settled on framing as something that you could do. Do you see the difference between that versus somebody who doesn't even have the opportunity to go to school and is kind of forced into doing a blue-collar job without any real choice in their life to do anything different? You kind of see that there's like a different path in life that some people take there that might influence the way they view those kinds of jobs?
Yeah, for sure. Everybody views things differently. I mean, most of the guys that we work with look at people that work in offices and they're like, it's not a real job. You just sit around and it's not like a real job. Like, we work real jobs. And then the people in the offices look down at those people and they say, well, it's not a real job. It's not like, I'm handling all these big accounts and,
yeah, but,
blah, blah, blah.
I mean, you can tell me if this is different in Canada, but typically when you have children, don't you hope that they grow up and get college degrees to get really good paying jobs and whatnot so that they can do more things in life and take care of their family rather than having to work in construction related or other blue collar or retail or these really low level frontline jobs?
But that's the thing is I don't view them as really low-level frontline jobs.
Well, they're frontline. When I say low level, I mean low education required. I don't mean like lesser beings on some human like value chart. I just mean like they're lower level jobs. They're easy to get into. They often pay much worse, and they have very few, if any, benefits, like medically or dentally or vacation time or anything.
And I don't know why you think that when the strongest union in the U.S. is the Steelworkers Union. That's a huge union. You guys have
do
unions.
You think that the people
you
in
can
West
join
Virginia
a union.
and Michigan are feeling that Steelworkers Union like really supported them, or like the people in Detroit or St. Louis? Like, we had unions here in the United States, but manufacturing there's been a lot of people that are out of work. That's where a lot of the resentment came from for people that voted for Trump. Are you trying to say that these unions protected these people and kept their jobs from leaving? Like, that didn't happen. Unions in the United States at one point in time, sure, provided for a lot of high-paying, high-level jobs to these people, but a lot of those jobs have been exported.
Yeah. But that's not necessarily the fault of the unions or the workers. And that's not saying that people that work in construction or the trades have no benefits, no medical or anything. Here, we're a lot like you guys. Like, you have to work your 40 hours and you get medical and dental. You pay for it just like you guys do.
Okay. Again, I don't know much about Canada, but in the United States, I would say that if you get a college degree, the jobs and benefits available to you are almost universally going to be better than working very low-level, like blue-collar related work.
Yeah.
And it seems like most parents try to push their children into getting into the higher level stuff because you've got more options, you've got more choices in what to do with your life, you've got less damage to your body, more pay, so you're more flexible in what you can do. Like, that tends to be where people point towards.
Some people. I mean, I know people that they don't view that as real jobs. They're like, get a trade. Get a trade. That's always going to be, you're always going to have a job as a welder. You're always going to have a job as a boilermaker, a plumber, an electrician. The rest of these jobs, they're kind of, dependent on a lot of other things.
Sure, but again, I'm not really grouping in like trade, like high skilled trade, like plumber, electrician, carpenter. I think are on a level different than hard labor, manual labor jobs, or like shitty retail jobs. Like, I think that these are.
But a plumber is manual labor, an electrician is manual labor.
Okay, but every manual labor is not an electrician or a plumber. This isn't the norm.
No, they're plumbers, some are framers, some are masons, some are like me, or heat and frost insulators. That's a mason.
Sure, but the majority of these people are making far less than people with college degrees.
Maybe.
So don't we typically...
Maybe some of them are making a lot more.
Some, but we're talking averages, right? If you grow up to be, and your only option is being a construction worker or something, chances are you're making a lot less money than somebody that was able to graduate with a college degree.
But that's not a thing not everybody aspires to that. Not everybody wants that.
Sure, but if you
lots of guys, when they get to grade 9, they realize, like, I'm not excelling at math, I'm not excelling at writing. I kind of like working with my hands and building stuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to shop class more often.
Sure.
And I'm not going to go to computer class. And their dad's like, yeah, good for you. Get a trade.
Yeah,
Go into the trades.
and if people want to do that, that's awesome. I'm all for freedom of choice. But that's usually what I'm espousing. That's usually what I'm hoping for. If people want to choose to do those things, that's awesome. But it's not awesome when people are forced into that type of work because it's literally their only option, right? Which is essentially what I was talking about, or exactly what I was talking about, rather. That it sucks that people are forced into these low-skill, low-level jobs when if better education was available to them or more opportunities was available to them, they could have pursued something different. Something that would pay more, offer more benefits, give them more fulfillment or whatever. Like,
Yeah, I disagree with you there because I don't see them as low-level, low-skilled jobs where, like, these are high-skilled jobs. Being a mason is actually pretty tough. Like, you have to have some intelligence to do that.
if these jobs are so high skill, why do they pay so much less than college degree related jobs?
I don't necessarily think that every college degree job pays more than a
Not
mason.
every, but the majority, the large majority, such that the average difference in income between people with a college degree and without in the first year of labor is like $13,000 or $14,000 in the United States.
Yeah, and you know what? That's what somebody told me, and since I've walked away from that and went into the trades, I've made way more money.
Okay, but your degree was a 2-year diploma in jazz performance. That degree is not going to be representative, right? You understand that your personal experiences can't be projected to an entire population, right?
Okay, well, what kind of job are we talking about here that's a white-collar job?
I don't know, anything requiring a degree to get?
And what are those? Like, what jobs are we talking
I mean,
about?
any type of engineering degree, anything related to medical work, anything related to science and research, anything, I don't know, there's millions of different...
Yeah, my sister's a nurse. Her wage is comparable to mine. She did 4 years of university.
Okay, the average, is she like a full-on nurse or is she a CNA? Do you have like CNA and RN? Is that...
She's an RN, but now she's... I don't know exactly what her job is now, but she's an RN. She's a full registered nurse.
Okay, so the average pay of an RN is about $60,000 from what I can see. That's for new graduates. Full-time RN range base pay, first year pay of $53,000 to 25-year pay of $78,000. Those are for RNs. That seems to be significantly higher than the average framer pay that we talked about earlier.
It's a bit higher, yeah.
Well, I mean, you're going from an average of 42,000 to 70+ thousand. That's like almost double, right?
Well, like I said, the numbers I brought up showed up to 68,000 for a framer.
Up to though.
Yeah.
We're talking averages, right? Not everybody when something says up
Right.
to, right?
So-
a man can grow up to 6'7", but that doesn't mean that every single person walking around is 6'7", right? It's not.
Right, but what she found was for the first 8-9 years of her getting out of school, she had massive debt to pay off. So she was actually making a lot less than I was.
Sure.
Because I didn't have that debt to pay off.
For the first few years, sure. But I mean, once you pay off your debt, then you have an investment in your education that stays with you forever that you can continue to use to accelerate your earnings, where she'll eventually far surpass you in earnings, right?
I don't think that she will. I presume that within 5 to 10 years, I will probably not work on the tools anymore. I will become a supervisor management.
Do you think that every single worker has the opportunity to become a supervisor who works in management?
Well, I don't know why you always make these that every single person, because you take away people's individuality. No, not everybody does.
Okay, because we're talking about
that's why I'm saying that some people, yeah, I would push my kid to be in a trade if my kid was not excelling in, if my kid doesn't seem like he's going to be an engineer, then yeah, I would say become a welder. That's a great job.
Sure.
You'll have employment for years and years and years.
The reason why I'm talking about everybody is because when we talk about these issues, we have to talk in anecdotes. We can't talk in individual, because if I were to present the same type of talk that you were, right, I would encourage everybody to drop out of school immediately and take up video game streaming, because you can make a lot of money doing it. But that would be a really silly argument for me to make, because not everybody can do that, right? That's a really silly argument. You need to look at opportunities available to most people. Present as many opportunities as possible, give them as many opportunities as possible, and understand how most people will function in an environment, right? Not like, this is
Right.
my personal story, so I think everybody should do this, right?
And that's why I say, like, yeah, there's some people that should go into the trades. There's some people that should become nurses. There's some people that should become doctors or architects. Everybody has a different place.
Sure, and I don't disagree with that, right? But I think that we should give
Right.
people as many
So then,
opportunities as possible right out the gate, whether that's through education or whatever. People should be able to choose them, but not be forced into working a particular type of work.
no, but everybody has to work.
Yeah, nobody.
So you're forced to have a job. And sometimes, you have to take a job, and that's what you're qualified to do. And so you're going to take pride in it. You're going to think that it's okay.
Sure, and that's great if you do. I mean, everybody should take pride in their work, sure. But I'm just saying that, like, you want to have people being able to make those choices as freely as possible. Not, I can't afford education, therefore I have to go and be a mason because that's all I can ever do, right? You want people to have options in front of them for what they would want to choose to do, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
But I think that those options are there. For here in Canada, those options are definitely there.
in the United States, they're not really.
I would disagree. I think that they totally are. The guy that I was doing renos with in BC, he was actually from Canada, and he moved to the US, and he was a certified electrician down there. And what he found was that he just didn't like the trade. He didn't like people in the trade being electricians. So he became a framer. And he framed for, a few years. And then he went into painting, did painting for a while. Then he started doing renos. And then his, I don't know if it's his visa or whatever, but his time expired to be in the US and he had to come back to Canada, at which point his electrician certificate from the US doesn't travel to Canada. So here he just went and did construction. This guy's a very, very smart person.
Sure. Okay, so
he could be an architect or an engineer if he wanted, but he doesn't want to because he actually likes getting out and building stuff.
And I understand
he loves
that.
it.
When I was growing up, I had a friend that lived next to me that really wanted to do biology. I remember that he would talk about it in school sometimes. I went to a private school, though, and he went to a really shitty public school. There's a really shitty public school next to me. It was called Edison Elementary or something. When he went to school and I went to school, the difference in classes available to us was really huge. Like, I had already taken, like, I want to say, if not pre-calc, like a really advanced algebra class by the time I'd hit 8th grade. So I went into doing college algebra my freshman year of high school. When this guy got into high school, I don't even know if they'd started algebra yet in grade school, right? And I went to a private high school as well. By the time we both came out of high school, he still had interest in biology, but he didn't have the GPA or the prerequisite AP classes or anything to actually qualify for a good college, right? The only way that he could get into college was going to a state school, and the amount of money that he would have had to pay for it was massive. And that dude, I haven't talked to him in a while, but I think he ended up working like fast food, and then I think he got into something related to contract. I think he roofs during the summers, and that's all he'll ever get to do because he couldn't afford college, right? He never had and he was a fairly smart dude too. Like, I knew him, he talked well, he didn't sound like an idiot or anything. Like, he was really smart in everything we did, but he'll never have the opportunity to follow his dream or his passion or whatever because he's kind of locked into, the shitty life of being a poor person where you can't afford education and you just kind of have to work the jobs that are in front of you.
So by saying that, you're saying that you're justifying, which, like I said, the original point that you made with Sargon is that nobody wants these jobs. Nobody wants their kids to have to go into the jobs, and nobody takes pride in these jobs because they're just crappy jobs.
Yeah, when I say crappy jobs, what I'm talking about is not like, oh, if you work those
You're
jobs.
just talking about a ditch digger, a guy that just hauls boxes from point A to point
I'm not
B.
even, when I say...
And I think that that's the problem here is that what your idea of what construction work is so far removed from what it is.
Okay, these are the things that I know to be true about hard work in America. One, it pays much less Two, a lot of people are forced into it, like my friend, because they can't afford access to education. And three, a lot of these jobs have severely detrimental impacts to you growing up in terms of injuries presented to your body or chronic conditions or whatever that don't present an equivalent white collar people. That you're more likely to hurt your back or to hurt your leg or ankle or something for some kind of thing that will be with you for the rest of your life working these types of jobs. That's what I mean when I say crappy jobs. Not crappy jobs like, oh, look, he's in construction, what an idiot, we should all look down on him and shun him. But crappy jobs like nobody wants their children to grow up and have to work these jobs if they have the opportunity to go to school and get something that pays better and gives them more flexibility and more freedom.
Some people do, though. Some
Sure,
people
and if you
don't
choose
view
them-
those office jobs as real jobs.
And if
They're
you
like,
wanna-
it's not a real job. You're just sitting around at a desk, and then from there, it's your choice. If you want to sit at a desk all day, eat snack foods, go home, sit in front of the TV, and don't get any exercise, you're going to become overweight, diabetic, have back problems, have all kinds of health problems. If you're a construction worker who lifts boxes from point A to point B all day, doesn't ever lift it right, eats fast food every lunch, goes home, drinks a case of beer, and watches a sports game, yeah, your health's going to deteriorate. But that's everybody if you don't take care of your health. Yes, there's higher risks on construction sites, for sure. But I guess that's probably maybe the difference between here and there. And I probably will agree with you there because I worked with a guy who did oil drilling in Texas, as well as a couple other southern states. And he said, yeah, it's not like here drillers are making, like, he said he was making like $1,300 a day.
Do you think that's average for people that are working these types of jobs to get $1,300 a day?
No, and in the U.S., he said the guys working on the rigs beside him were like not trained in anything. They were basically paid what an entry-level construction worker in the city here is paid. It's very different, right? Our drilling and our safety and stuff is very high compared to some of the stuff you have down there.
Sure. So just like a few quick numbers in this article I linked you. The new report showing blue-collar workers are more prone to illness than any other group. Experts say HR's challenge is to understand the unique aspects of their own workplace's well-being, as well as the unique things they're going to have to do as an employer to address each worker's needs. Results of a recent survey showing that blue-collar workers are more prone to ill health are hardly surprising, experts say, but a higher preponderance of health problems among that sector is a concern. Like, these are, I gotta find you a million different things it talks about. Like, I don't like that you're presenting a false equivalence that, like, well, white-collar workers, you know, they can have health issues too. Like, no, blue-collar workers are much more likely to experience health problems in their life that are very significant. And, like, somebody being obese sucks and it's shit, but I mean, like, you have the opportunity to not let that happen, right? But if somebody hurts their back on a job site, right, when in their 20s or 30s, these are injuries that they will carry with them for the rest of their life. Like, I've got a friend that can't even pick his kid up anymore because he hurt himself working, and like he was like 25, I think. He ended up dropping out of school because he was working. He was like 25 and he hurt his back doing, I don't even know what the fuck it did, but now like every single time he picks something up, he has like a little twinge in his back when he does it.
Yep. And I've known guys forced out of the trades because they wanted to play softball. And they slid into home base and broke their leg, and that was it. They couldn't come back to work in the trades.
So do you not acknowledge that people that do these types of work are more prone to injury or illness than other types of people? You think it's all equivalent?
I think in Canada, our level of safety is very high. And I think that, yes, it's equivalent in Canada. You'd have to take into account the type of people as well, right? That I think that there's a larger majority of the people that work in construction that don't care as much. That they, like I said, they eat fast food at lunch, they go home and they drink a case of beer, and their health is, seriously deteriorates because of their own personal choice rather than the job itself.
Okay, here's from a Canadian government website. Not surprisingly, injury was more common in blue collar than white collar. Close to 1 worker in 10 in trades, transport, and equipment operations sustained an on-the-job injury more than 4 times the rate for those employed in business, finance, or administration, or in social science, education, government service, or religion.
Yep. But what are the incidents, right? I could cut my hand, go to safety, It gets filed as an incident. Is that serious? Does it deter me from doing my job?
So
No.
are you saying that the majority of injuries sustained in these blue-collar jobs are probably insignificant? Couldn't you argue that don't you think the chances of getting a minor injury are probably higher in a white-collar job where you're not really doing heavy lifting than a blue-collar job?
No. I think that in construction, there's a lot of minor injuries that happen a lot. I just don't think that they happen in offices, like paper cuts, what, you burn yourself with a coffee.
So you think that what kind of data would I have to show you to change your mind of this position? So your contention is that even though 4 times as many blue collar workers are injured as white collar workers, you're claiming 2 things. 1, that all of those white collar injuries are serious, and that 2, that the majority of these blue collar injuries are not serious. Those are your 2 contentions?
I'm saying that the numbers seem different because in construction, a lot of minor injuries get reported, and those injuries count towards that large number. Whereas, yes, in construction, your chances of death on the job site are immeasurably higher. There's a chances every day I could die.
So if I were to, so let's take some guesses. If we were to measure the chances of you breaking your bone or losing a limb or a digit like a finger, do you think that's going to be higher, significantly higher in blue collar versus white collar? Or do you think you have just as much a chance in hacking your finger off in a white collar job than you would in a blue collar job?
No, for sure. The guy working in the office definitely doesn't have a chance of severing a finger as much as the guy that's running a concrete saw.
Okay, what
for
about
sure.
breaking a bone?
For sure.
Okay, so then you do agree then that chances are, if we take these stats at face value, blue-collar workers probably face significantly more injuries than white-collar workers, right? I don't understand how you're not...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the level of injuries is a bit higher, yeah.
Well, 4 times higher is the reported.
Yeah, I know, and like I said, that seems inflated a bit because a lot of the minor injuries get reported.
Why do you think minor injuries are reported under blue-collar work, but minor injuries aren't reported under white-collar work?
I didn't say they weren't reported. I said they don't happen. There's not as much chance of having an injury. Again,
Wait, so you don't think there are any minor injuries for white-collar work?
I'm sure there are.
But you think that there are more minor injuries in blue-collar than white-collar? Why?
Because of the nature of the work.
Then where do so the majority of the white-collar injuries are major? What kind of major injuries do you think white-collar workers face?
In Canada, probably the number one is motor vehicle deaths, injuries. So if...
I'm sorry, you said if?
On company time. So if if I have to go for a meeting somewhere, there you go. That's a workplace injury.
Okay, so let me read this part. Hand and lower back injuries are the most common. The hand was the body part most frequently injured on the job. Over 1/4 of work-related injuries were to the hand, followed by the lower back. Lower back injuries were 16%. Compared with all workers who sustained an occupational injury, those in sales and service were more likely, and white-collar workers combined less likely, to injure a hand. White-collar workers were more likely to injure the lower back. 1/5 of the occupational injuries sustained by white-collar workers affected this part of the body. The most frequent type of occupational injury was a sprain or a strain, followed by cuts and fractures. Sprains or strains were more common among white-collar workers compared with workers overall. Fractures accounted for nearly 1/5 of injuries to primary industry workers, significantly above the share for all workers. Burns or scalds made up 15% of injuries sustained by sales and service workers, significantly higher than the proportion of all work injuries.
So they burned themselves on a coffee.
Sure. And it seemed like fractures... Things like breaking bones were much more represented in industry workers.
But either way, my main point is that some people do want to go into the trades. Some people really take pride in it. And I really don't see how it's not a good job and how some people shouldn't do it.
I'm not saying that it's not a good job or that some people shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that it'd be nice to give people as many options as possible because these jobs tend to pay worse and present more of a risk to your health.
But you still need them. There still has to be as many. You can't take away the number of construction workers. Yeah, I agree that people should have all the options that they can have, but the fact is that some people like that work, they want to go into it, and they take pride in it.
I don't disagree
And
with
those,
that. If
but
they
that's
want,
all the things with like I said on Twitter. That's what I'm saying is you denied that with Sargon. You
No,
totally
I
went
didn't.
and said like they're crappy jobs. Nobody wants to do them. Nobody has pride in being a construction worker.
I didn't say nobody has pride. I've never said that. Okay.
I
Maybe
I
I
hope
overstated.
not, because
Maybe
I'd hate to look back and watch the video again and really find that that's true.
Sure. So maybe I overstated when I said nobody wants to work these jobs, okay? I'm sure there are some people that want to work these jobs, but the trend or the idea is generally to get more education and work higher paying jobs. That seems to be the trend in Western society. Because these lower paying jobs tend to be worse jobs in terms of risk of injury or risk of or shitty pay.
Maybe
Both
it's just the fact that your country doesn't know how to work job safety.
Okay, well,
And
all of these
that's the
stats
big
I'm pulling
issue,
are coming
not-
from your country. These are Canadian stats that your blue-collar workers are over four times more likely to face injury than white-collar workers. This is from Canada.
Yeah, and I've already agreed with that. But like I'm saying, I know that your chances of death and serious injury are higher. But I think that the numbers are a little bit inflated due to minor injuries.
And you have no
And
evidence
it
to prove
doesn't-
that. That's just your feeling.
It doesn't matter anyway.
What
What
doesn't matter?
matters
The risk of
is that
death?
people want to go into those jobs.
But that's...
People like them, and they take pride in them.
Okay, but the point I'm making is that if you run into somebody that's an engineer, there is an incredibly high likelihood that he is an engineer because he wanted to be an engineer, right? That there's a very high likelihood, okay? If you run into somebody that's working a hard manual labor job, it's hard to tell sometimes if they really wanted to do that job or if it was just the only option available to them.
Yeah, I personally don't find that all that much. From my personal experience, most of the construction workers are pretty okay with where they're at. And going up the ladder, I mean, I know somebody who's a doctor and never wanted to be a doctor, actually. They wanted to be a scientist. But everyone told them, well, all the money is in being a doctor. So they went to being a doctor. They don't really care about being a doctor.
Sure, but
So-
I've got 10 friends that are doctors, and all 10 of my friends love being doctors, and I also have 100 friends that are construction workers, and all 100 of them hate being construction workers. It's pointless to throw out anecdotes, right? You keep retreating back to this one person you know, but you have a country of, I don't actually
Well,
know,
not
was it
just
30 or
repeating
40?
back to one person. I'm saying there's multiple people that I know. That I actually work in the trades. I work with all these people.
You work with every construction worker in Canada?
No, but I work with a large group of them. I go from site to site. I mean, I built the Rogers Arena here in Edmonton.
Do you think
Which
it's fair to
was-
say that maybe you know like 10% of the blue-collar workers in Canada?
I would say it's fair to say that I understand at least 25 to 50% of the feeling of construction workers in Alberta and understand
Play battle.
why they got into which trade they are and their feelings of being in the trade from all the people that I've worked with, which is in like the thousands.
Okay.
I don't work with people. I really don't find people in the trades at my level that don't want to be there, that don't like it. They all think that, like I said, it's a funny disconnect because the people in the office look at like, who would want to do that? And then the people in the trades look at the office people and like, who would want to do that? Who would want to sit at a desk all day?
Have you ever seen the movie oh fuck, what's the name of that movie with Good Will Hunting? With Matt Damon and the other dude. Did you see that movie?
I've heard of it, but I don't really watch a lot of movies.
Okay, I was just curious. What? Okay. What? I guess what other issues did I talk about with Sargon that you took issue with?
The other one, which I know you're never going to come to a spot where you understand it, but that you think that this mass immigration is great because while a minority of the population suffer in abject poverty, the majority of the people benefit. So therefore, this system works out great, which was Sargon was saying, if you stop the immigration, and this is a problem that we have here in Canada as well, they keep bringing in more and more people. So when you have a surplus of the things, the worth of it decreases. So wages go down.
Mm-hmm.
And what you have is it driving into a two-tier system, which is really rich and then really poor. And what Sargon is saying, and what I agree with, is if we slowed the immigration and got unemployment down to a level of maybe 1% to 2% before we started accepting more immigrants, that everyone would benefit.
So,
and what you're saying is that, well, you know, I know that those some people, they do really bad, but it's worth it in the long run because the majority of the people do good.
okay, so a couple things. Typically, you want employment in your economy to be around, I've heard, around 5 to 5.5%. 1 to 2% unemployment would be considered very, very, very bad from most economists' point of view, right? There is some level of frictional unemployment and unemployment for other reasons where people are seeking jobs. Like this idea of 1 to 2% unemployment seems pretty extreme. I've never heard anybody advocate for that before. First, right?
Okay.
Okay. Secondly, let's just talk about how some things in the economy function. If you're a business and you can pay lower wages, all right, that does a couple things. Can you talk about a couple of the things that you think happen when a business gets to pay lower wages?
They increase profits.
Okay, they could increase profits. If everybody else around you is also benefiting from lower wages, what are you going to have to do when wages are going down and other people are paying less in wages? What does that do to the cost of the good that you sell to the people around you?
It's most likely going to go down.
Okay, so products become cheaper and you make more money as a business, right? So let's say that we follow your example and let's say that we cut the flow of immigration, okay, to increase the cost of labor. So now flipping what we just talked about, if the cost of labor goes up, all right, what does that mean as your business?
Well, you're going to have to spend more on labor.
Okay, and the cost of your product is probably going to
increase.
All right, you're probably going to be making less money as well, right? So why would you advocate for a policy that increases the cost of goods to every single person in the country to protect some jobs?
Well, I think it protects all the jobs.
Do you think that everybody in a country is competing with low-skilled immigrant labor?
No, but I think that certain people will fill those jobs even if we don't have low-skilled workers. Your supply and demand will change. The people might not be able to buy, or the products might not be all super cheap, but the people are making more money, so therefore they can afford the more expensive products.
But the only people making the more money were the people at the very bottom that were competing with these people. So the person who's a doctor or a dentist or an engineer or a mid-level job like you as a foreman or a framer or a carpenter or whatever, these people are just going to be paying more money for everything, right?
Yeah, but they're going to make more as well.
No, they're not. Why would you make more money if you curbed immigration and made it so that immigrants couldn't take very low-level paying jobs? How is that going to translate to you making more money?
It works because there's less people, like those people come here
Actually, if
And maybe
anything, you would make less money possibly because the business might have to take away from your salaries in order to afford to be able to pay the increase in cost of labor of the people under you if they've got to pay them more money, right? I don't understand how you're making more money in these scenarios.
okay, well, when like for my job,
Okay.
if there's more people that can do my job,
Mm-hmm.
then the companies can sort of say, well, I'll have 50 guys to choose from. And then when they come in to talk to me, I'll say, well, let's say I'll offer you $24 an hour. And the guy
Okay.
says, oh, well, I can't work for that.
Okay.
That's too low. I want $30 an hour. Well, the low skilled immigrant guy is like, yeah, sure, I'll take the $24 an hour.
Okay.
So then they're going to hire that guy instead of the person that wants to earn $30 an hour.
Do you consider your job to be a low-skilled job? I thought you said your job required a lot of training and learning to do. So do you think somebody could immigrate to your job with no skills or training and take your job immediately?
They could enter into my trade immediately with no skills, yes.
Okay, then I'm not talking about your types of jobs. I'm talking about how I thought you said that your job required training to get up to where you were. I thought that you said that you worked your way up to that job.
Yeah, and they would too. I entered with zero experience just like they would. And that's how my job functions, is that I work in a trade where there's not a lot of people that want to do it or can do it. So I continually ask for more money, and I get it because there's not a lot of other people that they can choose from.
Okay, so then they have to increase the cost of that good, that final product that they sell, because they're paying you more, right? And they're
Yeah.
also making less money as a result of that. So every single client that you interact with has to pay more money. Don't these seem like negative things, making people spend more money on goods that could be cheaper?
No, it doesn't seem like a negative thing for me. I earn more money, I can buy more stuff.
But you can't buy more stuff because everything around you is going to cost a little bit more. Because
But I'm going to make more.
yeah, maybe a little bit more. But that's only for you as well. The majority of people aren't impacted by these low-skill laborers, right? The majority of people aren't going to be impacted. If you have a job with a college degree or any kind of job that requires training, if you're a supervisor or a manager, right, you're not getting paid more money because you're protecting lower-level jobs, but you're paying more money for every single good that those lower-level jobs interact with, right?
One place in Canada you can see the effects of this is Vancouver Island in BC. This is probably the best weather in Canada. Most people want to live there. So they have a massive amount of immigrants and people that want to live there. Now, one of the guys that I worked with, his son is a scientist. He works in an office in downtown Edmonton here. He makes $30 an hour as a scientist there. He got offered the exact same job in Victoria. There, they pay $18 an hour because they have a large pool of people to choose from. So if you don't want to take the $18 an hour, fine. They just find somebody else. And this is the point that Sargon is making to you, and you don't seem to get that when there is a high level of supply, the worth goes down. And when there's less,
but you're only looking at one side of the equation. For some reason, you're tunneled in on this fact that people, the lowest skilled laborers, could be making more money if we artificially decrease the supply of labor. But you're not acknowledging all of the benefits that come with the increase of your supply of labor. For some reason, you don't want to acknowledge any of those benefits. You think they're all negligible, but it's not. The entire world has benefited greatly off of shifting labor around the world. We pay much less per product than we would be otherwise. It seems like you're okay with telling, like, why not just increase taxes on business?
Just having cheap products doesn't necessarily mean, bottom line, everything's greater for everybody. Those workers in China that supply our dollar stores, they don't have a better life. They have a crappy life. The people that
okay, why are they working in the
clean
factories?
Screens on iPhones with neurotoxins so that you can buy a cheap iPhone?
Okay,
that's not benefiting their lives. Those people's lives are destroyed in their early 20s.
Why are those people working those jobs?
Because there's no control in their country, and there's no jobs.
There's no jobs, so we should take away those jobs from them, and then what? Let them starve?
And then they would have to create something else, which they will be forced to do. Like, that's the thing, that as they will find a way around it. I don't think that they're happy now. I don't think that they put nets around their buildings to stop the people from when they try to commit suicide. I don't think those people are like, yay, this is awesome. Have you ever seen the people that work in the Walmart factories? That, like, basically they live in the factory, they're paid in rice. These people, they're not happy. This is what they're doing because they have to.
What do you think median wages in China are compared to where they were 20 or 30 years ago?
Well, it's higher there because they've actually started to create a middle class.
Okay, so it seems like China is growing. I agree that these jobs are really shitty. But if you look at the wages in China, like, China has had a massive boom since the mid-early 90s. Like, I'm not saying that some of these jobs don't suck, but again, like, you only want to look. This is the problem with demagogues like Sargon and the people that end up listening to them and following them, is that you only ever want to consider one side of the argument. Economics doesn't work this way. This is a Fantasyland YouTube skeptic channel where we pretend that if we do one thing in economics, all of a sudden, you know, this one thing will happen and there will be no other impacts. It's not true. If you artificially curb the supply of labor, that means you're going to increase the cost of goods across your entire country, right? It means you're going to hurt businesses. It means you're going to hurt your overall economy because you're restricting artificially your access to a resource, which is how you grow economies, by increasing your supply of resources, right? Now, I'm not saying that it's a good or bad idea, but you can't have a conversation if you won't acknowledge that these things happen. Like, you have to acknowledge that if you want to make it so that nobody's allowed to come into your country, so that the prices for labor get more and more inflated, that we let wage inflation go and go and go, that you have to acknowledge then that, okay, well, some people will get better jobs, sure, but everybody in the country is going to be paying more for everything then, right? You have to be able to acknowledge these trade-offs. And it seems like when you start to look at all the trade-offs, it just becomes not really worth it. Like, why not continue to benefit from a cheaper supply of labor? Because this makes so many parties better off. Everybody in the country gets access to cheaper goods. Everybody that immigrates gets access to a better job, obviously, if they're immigrating to work there, right? Why not just find ways to redistribute the winnings of these companies onto the people that are most impacted, right? Whether it's through education or job training or something else, and continue to enjoy all the benefits that the labor immigration brings. Like,
and that was your point with Sargon,
yes,
is that you should tax those people and then give it to the people underneath that aren't benefiting from it. Yes. And what he's saying is why not just not do that? And that's what I'm saying, is don't do that.
Because then
I know you probably think that I'm indoctrinated in this skeptic community YouTube thing, and I'm really not. This is something for me that I found in, like, the past couple months, maybe since December, January. And the thing for me is because I come from living it. I came from BC, where there is a massive immigration, a massive overpopulation. And what they're having now is it's becoming a poor class and a really rich class. If you go and you look at the housing prices in Vancouver, you'll see what's happening.
Sure.
You'll see that these houses are for really rich people, and what all they're creating is part-time minimum wage jobs, because there is so many people to choose from. When I would go look for a job in BC, they would say, well, we're not really offering full-time. Would you be on call? And you, in that position, you're like, look, I need a job so badly that I'm willing to take anything you're offering. I'll take the lower wage. I'll take the part-time. I'll work 2-3 jobs, and I'll be stuck in poverty. So
sure, but
I didn't want that anymore.
What are you
so
gonna
I
do?
went to the next province over, which was actually had a worker shortage. They were looking for more and more people. Here, they gave me an opportunity, and I moved up into middle class. And what if this immigration continues? Like, if we're at 7 or 8% unemployment here in Alberta, and we keep letting more and more immigrants in, we're going to end up where BC is. And I can see it happening, because in the first couple of years that I was here, my wage went up and up and up. And now my wage has stagnated as unemployment rises. and they keep letting more and more immigrants in. So the problem is just getting worse and worse and worse. We're doing the exact same thing that BC did all over Canada. The jobs that are being created are minimum wage, part-time jobs. You're hollowing out the middle class, and you're getting left with a system with only really rich people and then poor people.
Okay, so why not? Why not create a system to redistribute some of those winnings from the rich people to the poor people?
Because we shouldn't have to do that. We should just stop the flow of immigration.
So what are you going to do
and
when
there
businesses,
you go.
What are you going to do when businesses start shutting down because you're increasing the minimum wage so much? And they can't
I don't
afford
want
to
to
pay it
increase
out.
the minimum
That's
wage.
effectively what you're doing. You're increasing the wage floor by restricting the supply of labor. What are you going to do when it gets to the point where you don't have enough laborers to fill a lot of these stores, and people are like, okay, well, fuck it, we don't have the people, we're just going to close it down. It's not worth it. I'm not going to pay somebody $45 to man a cash register. I can't do it. I'm going to close up, and I'm going to go take my business somewhere else. I'm going to go south of the border to the United States, where I can find lots of workers that will work for much cheaper, and I'm going to open businesses there. What do you do when you start to run into those problems? Are you going to try to let in a few more people to fill the jobs? Because prices on labor will grow up, and at some point your economy can't sustain that. People aren't going to pay that much money for fast food. They're going to look for other alternatives. People aren't going to pay that much money for clothes in store. They're going to go somewhere else. And when these stores start to close shop because the cost of labor is becoming so outrageous, what do you do at that point?
Then it does find a balance. It will find a way to balance itself out.
Yeah, it will balance out by stores closing down. You'll just have less shit available, and what is available will be more expensive.
Yeah, but the people will still be able to afford that.
Not
because their wages will
necessarily,
be high enough to buy it.
But that's not how markets decide wages. Markets don't give you wages to afford things. They give you wages based on the value of your labor. There's no guarantee that you'll be able to afford things as prices continue to go up just because you're being hired by a place. That's not how wages are determined.
But here in Alberta, we're not letting the market decide the wages. We're forcing minimum wage to go up because the minimum wage is so low.
Okay,
so
but as the minimum wage goes up,
deciding.
So as the minimum wage goes up, that just means more and more places will close down, or the cost of goods could increase to a point to where it's not financially viable anymore if they are being forced to pay those higher wages. There's no, I'm just saying that there is no implicit guarantee anywhere in any kind of market economy. There's no guarantee that because you work, you're going to make enough money to pay for a certain thing. That's not how wages are determined. Even if you could continue to bump the minimum wage up more and more and more, but that still doesn't guarantee that people's wages will outpace the cost of goods. There's no guarantee there anywhere, explicit or implicit.
Your basic needs would be affordable because you're basically all the things that you need are being supplied by the people in your area. And you're going to be able to afford it because everybody's paid enough to pay the other person.
Yeah, but maybe that means you're not going to have access to more luxury goods.
I'm fine with that. We have enough luxury. We are over-luxurized. We are over-entertained. We have way more luxuries than we ever need.
So, okay. So you're okay with decreasing the standard of living by restricting access to luxury goods by poor people. That's an okay trade-off for you then?
I don't think that luxury goods necessarily make your life better.
Don't you think you should have the option in whether or not you want to purchase a luxury good or not, rather than having somebody like you dictate that opinion to somebody because they're poor?
I think if you can afford it, that you can spend your money how you want. But I don't think that having a microwave or a smartphone increases the quality of your life that much, that restricting some people from owning those things really deteriorates their quality of life.
Would you agree with the statement, from each according to his ability to each according to his needs? Do you think that maybe, we should be deciding, what people want in their lives or what people should have, in terms of restricting, you don't need to buy, an iPhone and a computer or whatever, that it's okay to kind of make these determinations of what people should have?
I don't think that that's my choice to make if they should have it or not. I think that that's their choice if they can afford it or not.
Yeah, but you're kind of making that choice if they can't afford it, right? You're kind of saying that, you don't need these things, so we're going to let prices rise to protect some jobs, but that's okay because you don't need those things, right?
If the cost of iPhones became too much to have people in Canada or the US make them at a wage that was able for them to make some kind of living, or else it be their part-time job that they moved on from, and we didn't sell 10 million iPhones, I'd be fine with that. In fact, I'd be more than fine with that.
Why would
I
you be
think that
okay? Are you okay with systems? Do you think that like socialism or full-on communism? Do you think that like socialism or full-on communism? Do you think could be an okay thing?
not communism, and I think that socialism definitely has a possibility, but I think that it is too easily corrupted to really put a lot of
Do you think it
onus
might be
on
corrupted
going
by?
with socialism to a full degree. But you have to remember, I've been raised in Canada my whole life, and we have a large level of socialism in Canada,
Don't you
a
think
large level.
one of the types of corruptions is with totalitarian people deciding what you can or cannot have access to, like luxury goods?
Right, and that's why I'm letting the market decide for
But
itself.
but
If
you
they
want
can
to
make the
create
product
artificial
and make,
restrictions on labor in the market in order to
no, I
increase
don't.
wages that make yeah. When you say I don't want any
No,
more
you're
immigration,
making it artificial because you're wanting to increase the number of people. And
yeah,
I'm
that would
saying,
choose
no,
to
let it
immigrate.
happen organically.
No,
Let it happen here.
you want to restrict the flow of immigration. You want to curb that. You want to cut that off, and you want to let wages rise. You want all the wages to inflate, which will make something. And inflating wages probably hurt poor people the most, right? Because middle class and wealthy people, they're going to be able to afford whatever they want just fine. It's not going to hurt
They
them.
won't just be able to afford whatever they want. They'll be able to afford what they can afford. So rich people will be able to afford more than middle class people, and middle class people will be able to afford more than poor people.
Sure,
But
but
the market
the
in
people
our
that are
country
hurt the
will
most,
decide
the people that are
what the
hurt.
prices of the things are worth and what the wages are worth.
Sure,
What you're asking to do is for the government to control it. You want the government to control how many people come into the country, and then you want the government to control the wages for minimum wage and other things like that, because these people aren't making enough. In fact, the government should then help them out and take money from the middle class and the rich people and give it to those poor people, because the system's not really working for those
No,
poor
what I
people.
want is the ability for labor to move as it sees fit and let the market determine what wages should be and what the cost of goods should be as organically as possible. I don't want wages to inflate unless they would anyways, because the supply of labor is exhausted or labor can't travel or whatever because, they've used them all up, which I think is okay because there's no other alternative there. But there's a big difference between that and saying the government is controlling the wages. I'm not necessarily for a minimum wage at all. I just want, if laborers want to move in and take advantage of labor, or if businesses want to take advantage of that labor as well, like I think that should be a good thing. They should be allowed to. It means you've got cheaper prices. Businesses can make more money. If there are people that are adversely affected, there will be some people that are adversely affected, but overwhelmingly, the Western world wins off of trade deals like this. That we find a way to distribute some winnings from the most winningest people, maybe employers that hire immigrants into people that are disproportionately impacted by these people immigrating. But you.
And I don't see that. I see the top 1% of people are really gaining through the trade deals that we have,
Sure.
and the rest of the people
And
are
I
not
don't
gaining.
deny that right now. I don't deny that right now. But in this world that you're suggesting, poor people are absolutely hurt the worst. If you're wealthy or middle class, you're going to be able to buy what you want anyway. It's not going to bother you that much. But when the cost of goods start to rise, the people that feel it the most are the people on the bottom of the ladder that spend the highest percentages of their income on basic needs like housing and gas, right? They're not going to have as much money left over as a middle or upper class to deal with the cost of goods across the country rising. You're hurting these people the most by strangling the labor in the country and forcing these prices to go up.
Yeah, but I think in my system that the overall wages will go up, and there will still be poor people. There will always be. But what you're going to have is a multi-tiered system, which the way that we're working towards now, we're working towards a two-tier system of really rich and then poor.
I'm not in favor of the system we have now because I don't think any of the needs of the people that have been hurt by these types of policies have been addressed. I'm not advocating for the current system.
So then you want to stop the immigration, or you want more immigration?
No,
because
I
right
would-
now what we have is mass immigration.
No, what I would be in favor of is taxing people more that take advantage of this type of labor to help the people that are the most disproportionately impacted by it.
So if they have the money to pay the taxes, then why couldn't they just pay more wages? Then if we slowed the immigration, then they could easily afford to pay those wages.
Because with taxes, what we're looking to do, you can design a tax policy that hyper targets only the people that specifically take advantage of the most of these types of labor, right? So you can fine tune these policies to only target the specific people, and then you can redistribute the winnings in a fine tuned way to the people that need them the most. If you just restrict all labor in the country, then you end up hurting every person. Well, you can't choose as well, like who is impacted by this policy or who's impacted. Instead, every single person that employs low-skilled labor is now going to have to pay a fuck ton more money for labor. You don't get to choose who's impacted. And you're also shrinking the size of the economy compared to what it could be if you let more immigration in as well. The overall size of the economy will not increase as much, or maybe even decrease.
But there you're asking for the government to step in and control and distribute the funds for the people.
Sure. I mean, do you not believe in taxation? Do you think that's a fundamentally bad concept?
No, I think that taxation is a great concept, except I don't agree with how the taxes are used. And there I would definitely not agree, because now you're sending this money into the government, which has to have people there to manage it. So a big chunk of the money is going to disappear due to the bureaucracy that they're taking up in the government. Whereas if we didn't do that, and this is what Sargon was saying, what you're asking is for an extra step that I'm saying, cool, I think that that's the thing too, is that you're right, that we are sort of agreeing that we want the same overall thing. We're not happy with the system. But what I don't want is, I don't want the government involved in that. I want to just slow the immigration and let the unemployment come back to levels that are more manageable, because when the unemployment rate gets high enough, and like I said, I'm speaking from experience in being in a place where the unemployment level is crazy high. Moving to a place where the unemployment level, when I got here, it was 4%, less than 4% at points. And it's night and day. It's night and day towards your life, towards how you're treated at your job, towards your opportunities to leave. When I worked for T-Mobile, some of the people that worked in the center with me, I remember saying to them, I'm like, why do you stay here? They treat you horribly. Like, they treated people so horribly. And they would say to me, I just need the job, because if I leave, I'm scared I might not get another job. I don't know what my job would be.
Would you say these bats are pretty shitty?
Sorry?
These are pretty shitty jobs?
Working there, was the way that they treated people was definitely not very good.
So you don't think they can have pride in their jobs?
I think they could. I definitely had pride in my job when I was there.
Gotcha. It sounds like you're making my earlier argument that people should have more options in terms of where they go to get work. But
for sure. And that's exactly what I'm leading into, is saying, when you have massive people looking for a job, the employers have a whole group of people to choose from. And your decision to go and search for something else becomes drastically reduced, because you're competing now with a larger group of people that, if you didn't have that, you'd have the option to say, like, I'm not happy here, I'm going to go find another job.
Did you say the unemployment in BC was really bad?
Yeah, it's terrible there.
Are you sure? Because it looks like British Columbia is the lowest unemployment of all of the provinces.
Maybe right now. But I'm telling you, I know people there, and the unemployment rates are skewed because a lot of people there just stop looking for jobs, and then it falls them. They drop off of those charts because now they're not looking for work anymore.
Okay, but I know 100 people that moved to BC, and all of them found work.
Yep. And let me guess, they work in white-collar jobs.
A lot of them do, yeah.
Yeah.
But I know another.
Work in a tech job. Maybe they went to Montreal and they got tech jobs.
Well, but maybe those are the types of jobs that economy is looking for.
As well as I know a lot of people from BC that come and work here but still live there. So they might be a resident of BC, but they're actually working in Alberta.
Gotcha. All right, what else did I say that you disagree with? Or is there any other big topic?
Nothing other major. Like I said, a lot of these things, like the immigration, the wall, you argued with Jim, then you argued the immigration thing again with Sargon. I don't want to go into the whole black people getting married thing, because I really don't have anything to add to that.
Gotcha.
And then the construction thing was, like I said, because I am a construction worker, and I'm speaking from experience of, I've been there, like in BC, if you want to go get a construction job, you need to go to school first. They're not going to train you on the job because there's so many people to choose from. Whereas here, they're going to train you. You can move up. This is life experience. This isn't charts and graphs. This is actually being out there in the field with numerous other people.
Gotcha.
Even my boss, when I was there doing rentals with him, he came from Calgary. And he was like, I don't want to lose you because I'm going to lose a good worker that I can't just replace because there's so many people. And to find the good one is very hard. But he doesn't have enough money because it's so tight. You have to understand that it's so tight. Talking like a $30 job here is $18 an hour there.
Mm-hmm.
Victoria has the highest cost of living in Canada. It's crazy, but they're doing it because they have such a massive amount of people to choose from.
If you were a business owner and you had to choose where to open a business, where would you go? Wouldn't you want to go to the place with the cheaper labor available to you?
No.
You would go where you'd have to pay workers more money?
Yes.
Why?
Because when you're at a job and you get paid a good wage, you take more pride in what you're doing. You feel a sense of being more of a contributor and that you're valued. Whereas when you don't get paid very much, you don't feel like you're valued or a contributor. And so overall morale becomes toxic in the workplace.
Then why don't all the people, wouldn't they know this? Why wouldn't they all just pay more money then in these places?
Because there's so many people to choose from that as soon as those people start to slip a little bit, they just let them go. Get somebody else in. When I worked for T-Mobile, we had 108% attrition each year. That was actually wanted. They wanted to turn over more than everybody a year. They didn't want them staying.
Gotcha. All right. Well, do you have any closing thoughts or anything?
No, I'll go back and watch the Sargon thing because I'd really like to see what you did say about construction, because I'm pretty sure you said that people don't want to do it. They don't take pride in it.
Well, I don't think I said the pride. I'm pretty sure that was injected by other people. But in general, people tend to not want these jobs because they want their kids to go on and get more education, to have more opportunity in life, to choose better paying, healthier jobs in general.
Yeah, I don't agree with it. But like I said, I do see a disconnect that it's between the people in the construction and the people in white-collar jobs. Sure. Like I said, I notice a very big disconnection between understanding what each of us is there to do.
Sure. So
and
can I ask you a question? I'm kind of curious.
Sure.
So initially, I noticed that you said that I never learn and I don't look at any fact and I just decide they're dumb. In terms of this conversation, every single major point that you've disagreed with me on, you've disagreed under the guise of anecdote or intuition. You either had a story of a friend, a personal story, or you just think a thing. Can you think of any facts that you've brought up during this discussion that I've disagreed with?
That walls don't stop people from...
A fact. Facts. Quantifiable.
That's a fact.
No, it's not, because we can agree that walls don't always stop people, and you can't quantify that in any way for me. You can't tell me the percentage of people that it'll stop in an area that already has criminals available. You can't give me any data about that. Can you name any other actual facts, not just an intuition or a feeling?
That when there's a surplus of something, the cost goes down.
I agreed with that that's a fact. I agree that the cost of labor will go down. I don't disagree with that. Is there any other fact that you feel like I've ignored?
No, because to be honest with you, I didn't prepare a lot of factual things. But like I said, these things are things that you do.
Was Sargon brought up that you felt like I ignored?
Well, definitely with the economy and the immigrants, I think it's a fact of what we're saying here.
What is a fact about the economy and immigrants that I've ignored?
That you want to have more immigrants come in, the cost of everything go down, tax the rich people, and distribute the money back to the poor. And what we're saying is that you don't need to do that. You're making an extra step
Gotcha.
that doesn't need to be there.
But you acknowledge that in my way, the economy grows more. And then in your way, you're okay stifling
No.
growth in the economy.
No, I don't agree with that.
But earlier you just said that you would be restricting access to luxury goods. Did you not say that?
Yeah.
So that's a way that you're okay with shrinking the economy. The economy won't grow as fast because you don't have as many laborers coming into work. And people won't be able to afford luxury goods. So it seems like you're okay with shrinking the overall size of the economy. So what facts have I ignored here?
Well, the fact that the economy would diversify.
What do you mean by diversify?
Well,
if anything, it would do less because you would have less labor and less job opportunities available and less employers willing to open businesses. If anything, it wouldn't diversify. It would do whatever the opposite of diversify is.
No, it would.
How does less laborers and higher wages diversify your economy?
What you're saying is that it would take away the luxury items, and what I'm saying is that they'd have to figure out diverse ways to create those items and make them affordable to the people.
By exporting all the jobs to another country?
Why would they need to export them?
How else are they going to make it cheaper if you're making the labor more expensive? Are you saying that there are these...
They don't have to make it cheaper. They can make it at a cost that the people here that can afford it.
So you're saying right
if
now...
They can't,
so you're saying
if
that
they
it's
can't,
possible
then they would have to become more creative in ways that they make the product here.
So you're saying that there exist ways to cheaperly make a cheaper way to create an iPhone or something that just no one's looked into yet. But if you were to make all the wages more expensive, that they would magically figure out a cheaper way to make iPhones in Canada?
I'm sure that they would. If they had to have the factories here in Canada, that they would figure out how to make them more affordable.
And all
here.
The people in the world that are all competing, the giants at Samsung and all the other companies and LV or LC, or LG, sorry, yeah, LG and Google and all these other cell phone HTC, none of these people have figured out how to make things cheaper because all the billions that they spend on R&D, none of that means anything.
Figured out how to make them cheaper in another country by going over to another country.
Okay, but nobody knows, but if you were to just all of a sudden restrict labor, that your country, Canada, would somehow become the leading exporter, the leading researcher, and you would all of a sudden, you would get all of the institutions, all the R&D labs, all the fabrication plants. You would make this massive investment in your infrastructure to get all of this research done to figure out how to create things that are cheaper than they already exist?
No, what I'm saying is that if they had to look at it and they were like, okay, we have to make it in Canada, we have to pay people this much money to make it, how can we make it at a price that this number of people in Canada can buy it? Rather than, like Nike shoes, well, we'll just go ship it off to Korea and then they'll make the shoes for 10 cents a shoe, we'll ship it back here and charge $160 a shoe.
Do you think everybody...
So the profits will be insane, and that 1% will make a lot of money.
Do you think that everybody in Canada, or in Alberta specifically, do most of you guys drive Lamborghinis?
No.
Why hasn't somebody just figured out how to make them cheaper yet? Don't you think it's possible that somebody might just say, well, you know what, we just can't do this, and that product just doesn't exist in your country anymore?
That would be fine.
Okay, if you think that'd be fine, that's okay. But you're talking about shrinking the economy then.
Like, one of the things that they did in BC that destroyed their economy was the fastest way to make money off of wood was to cut all the trees down, chop the trees up, and ship it to Japan or China. Then China takes all the wood, builds it into furniture, builds it into other stuff, then sells the furniture back to us. When I came out of high school in BC, you could just go get a job in a mill, and you would be making pretty good money. 2 years after I got out of high school, they started selling raw logs, raw lumber to Asia. About 7, 8 mills there closed down. All those jobs went away because they can make it cheaper over there. And yeah, you're right. It's cheaper over here. Now I can go buy a sofa for $250. But I don't have as much money because I can't make that mill job. before I could make that mill job. And if I had to buy a $400, $500 couch, it didn't matter because I could afford it.
Okay, if you go back 30 or 40 or 50 years ago, do you think the standard of living for poor people has increased or decreased compared to now? When poor people now have access to computers, the internet, luxury goods, cell phones.
I think that it's decreased and increased the number of poor people.
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
And
So do you think the standard of living amongst poor people has increased or decreased? I heard you say both words.
decreased.
Okay, so poor people with access to luxury goods are doing worse now. By what metric are they doing worse than they used to be?
I don't think that they have as high quality food, and I don't think that they have as high quality housing,
How do they not have as high quality food?
because the food that they have to buy is processed food that's made from either the US, Mexico, or somewhere outside of Canada.
Okay.
The food that's made in Canada costs too much money.
Okay, so if you made it so that people weren't able to buy that cheaper food, do you just let these people starve, or would they magically get enough money to buy the more expensive food? Or
Well, what would happen if wages increased, they would be able to buy the more expensive food. They would, if wages for people building houses increased, those people would build better houses
how do you know they would build better houses?
because they used to build a lot better houses. And since the wages have declined for framers, the level of building houses has gone down.
Why doesn't somebody just come in and hire somebody at more money then and build better houses?
Because they don't care about those poor people. They don't care. They just care about making their money.
Okay, why
That's
do
just
people
the 1% of people
then why do
that are
people
making a lot of money,
then why do people buy these houses?
so that they can rent them out to poor people,
Why do poor
Because
people
there's-
rent these houses?
because they have to have somewhere to live.
And nobody's come in and thought maybe I can build higher quality houses for poor people, or
They don't care. They're making money.
but somebody else, like somebody with that's entrepreneurial, can be like, oh, I'm gonna make a company and I'm gonna pay laborers twice the market price of their wages, so they build way better houses, and other people are gonna come buy these. Nobody's thought of doing that.
Maybe you're not acquainted with the housing market in Canada, but no, there's a small number of people doing that. But the majority of people are building things as quick and as fast as they can, and they don't care about the quality.
Gotcha.
I've been there. I've framed condos and everything. You see the quality that comes in, and it's horrendous. But they're passed along, and somebody buys them up, and they rent them out, and somebody has to live there.
So if you made the houses more expensive, though, people would magically have enough to pay for it because their jobs' wages going up a little bit. They'd be able to pay for an increase in costs and everything else in the economy.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any other facts you feel like I've ignored from your Sargon?
Not that I want to go over.
All right. Okay. Well, listen, I appreciate the conversation, buddy.
Yeah, I do too. Like I said, that I didn't bring a lot of facts, but I really did want to try and relate some of my personal life experience to you, because I am at a very, very different place. And I am sorry that I do come across as, yeah, this is all my experience. And I didn't come in prepared. I just seen it and I was like, commented, you were like, do you want to come on? I said, well, yeah, because I'd like to relate my personal life experience to you so that, you can sort of understand where somebody like me, a construction worker, is coming from.
Gotcha.
So I appreciate the time. I really thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, buddy. I'll talk to you later. Or I'll see you around. Have fun. Good luck.
Yeah, you too.
Bye. I told Loldemar I would talk to him, and I have to decide if I want to do 2 retards in one day. Oh, fuck me, dude. I don't understand. I don't understand how to. I don't understand. I'm not sure. I don't know how to communicate with somebody that doesn't understand that anecdotes aren't an effective way of communicating an idea. I don't know what to say. Um. Yeah, I've heard about the Vancouver housing stuff. I've never heard it being about immigration, but more about Chinese people that invest a fuck ton in houses there and then rent them out to people is what I've always heard. But Destiny, say anecdotes aren't facts. Can you provide some real data to support your claims? Just say that you know a guy who's a space emperor of an intergalactic fleet, and when they say no way, tell them to prove it with stats. Oh my god, dude. Alright, Lolomar, message me on Skype. We'll do this quick.
Wow,
Oh.
every time I watch your debates you get destroyed.
Maybe
Just
not.
give up, my dude.
Never mind. What's up, my dude?
Yeah.
How you doing, buddy?
I was so afraid that you were gonna get on Skype with someone else.
Oh, I was just about to. You just caught me. Alright.
Yeah, I flick shot that call button so fast.
Nice. That's impressive, dude. It says you're a part. Oh, you sent me an invite.
Yeah. Actually, I had a memory leak earlier today. I'm gonna restart my game.
Sure.
It's really neat.
Yeah.
I think neat's a good word. How you can put up with those guys in the call for so long,
Do you think so?
and then seemingly like 2,000 to 3,000 other people as well. Like whenever I open up your stream and you're debating someone, I lose about 50% of my viewers, so about 250. But
Yeah, but I know a guy, and when he listens to my debates on his stream, he actually gains viewers.
he actually gains 4 viewers,
Yeah,
so
he actually gains 100 views. Yeah, I know a guy.
As entertaining as that was, plot twist. It wasn't entertaining at all. You
Nice.
should hang
Nice
up on
stats,
these
dude.
morons immediately.
What's
win
that?
rating 1850.
The real feels hit when you realize actual idiots
What's
like
this
that
custom
guy
match
vote
button?
in elections. De feels.
What's what match button? Oh, you can make customs now. Apparently, some people can, but you have to be like invited to do it. I guess I'm not sure.
Oh, maybe it's for that like 2 versus 2 thing for charity or whatever.
No, yeah, maybe. Oh shit! Hold on. I'm gonna try to turn my stream settings back up. Good luck.
6K?
No, to 4K. I had to turn it down to 500. My shit was getting fucked. I'll be right back, guys. 1 sec.